Hey CMA buddies, let's today continue with module 9 and we will be discussing 9.5 which talks about stages in strategic planning, right? Now stages in strategic planning are basically divided into 5 main steps. So first step we talk about is select the corporate mission and major corporate goals, right? So the first thing that you got to do is what is the mission of the corporate and the major corporate goals that they intend to achieve. First step is crafting of organization mission statement. So first of all, if you would have seen, if you have been working or if you would have seen many organization, they generally have a mission statement in an organization, right? Which provides framework or context within which strategies are formulated. So basically these statements give you a framework. Framework means it gives you a model or a context within which the strategies are to be formulated. A mission statement basically has 4 main components, right? What are the 4 main components? First one is mission, which we are talking about the mission itself. So mission will be the first component of that. So what exactly is mission? Mission is basically statements of its reason for existence. Why a company is existing, that will be decided by the mission of the company, right? Then second one is vision. What is vision? Statement of desired future state, as in what it intends to achieve, right? I hope you understand the difference between two. Mission is basically why it is existing, and vision is what exactly they tend to achieve or what exactly they intend to achieve. Then it says statement of key values that organization is committed to. So on what principles are they actually working? So that is the key values. And finally the statement of major goals. What are the basic goals or the major goals that they have forecasted to achieve, right? So 4 things that basically you have to do in the first step is select the corporate mission and major corporate goals, and the 4 things are mission, vision, key values and major goals. This is beautifully summarized in this diagram. You can actually see first one is mission statement. Mission statement is defines the organization reason for existence. That's what we have said. And the second one is basically the mission vision statement. Vision basically outlines the desired state of the future state of the organization. Then key values, fine. Key values, you can see keys here, so basically that also is one of the ways to remember it, hence I have taken this diagram for your reference. Highlights the core principles the organization is committed to, and finally the major goals. Major goals is specifies the primary objectives the organization aims to achieve. Fine. Moving on to the next step of strategic planning, it says analyze the organization external competitive environment to identify opportunities and threats, right? So the first thing that the organization, or rather the second thing the organization is supposed to do is they need to analyze the external competitive environment, as in how their competitors are basically acting and what steps need to be taken so that basically they can take out the opportunities and they can realize even the threats. How opportunities? For example, your competitor is creating a new product which you aren't aware of or which is very new to the market. So you being a competitor have to make sure that you also enter that segment. And threat means other way around, as in you have launched some product and basically your competitor is trying to copy the product that you are having. So again that becomes a threat. So second component of strategic planning process is analysis of external operating environment, right? So the main focus of the company as far as the second step goes is that they should be able to analyze the external operating environment. This analysis is to identify strategic opportunities and threats within an organization that has a direct impact on its mission. So basically identifying this will tell you that what impact it has on the mission of the company, right? The most important part of this step is there are 3 external environments to be examined while undertaking external analysis. So if you just remember these 3 points, you basically can elaborate on this particular step. One is industry environment, second one is country or national environment, and third is macro environment. Macro means on a larger perspective. Let's understand this with the figure. Now, if you have to navigate strategic planning through external environment analysis, 3 things have to be taken into the consideration. First one is the industry environment. What does industry environment says? It says examine competitive dynamics and market trends within the industry. Fine. So you need to analyze as to how the dynamics are working within a industry itself and what kind of trends are being followed. Second one is country or national environment. It talks about analysis or rather it analyzes national policies, economic conditions, and the political factors. So these three things are important. Finally, you talk about the macro, that is the larger picture or the bigger picture. It considers global trends and external factors impacting the organization. So industry environment basically examines the competitive dynamics and market trends within the industry, whereas the macro environment, it identifies the global trends and external factors that impacts the organization, right? Third one is country and the national environment. Then you come to the third point, and third point talks about analyze internal operating environment to identify strengths and weaknesses. SNW is strengths and weaknesses, right? So first of all, you spoke about the external environment. The third steps basically concentrates on the internal operating environment. Internal analysis focuses on reviewing the resources, capabilities, and competencies of the company. So three things: one is resources, second one is capabilities, and third one is competencies, right? Goal is to identify the strength and weaknesses of a company. Fine. So since you are analyzing the internal operating environment, you basically are trying to figure out the strength and weaknesses. Whereas if you have seen the last point wherein we spoke about the external competitive environment, we were talking O&T of the SWOT analysis, right? So when you talk about the external competitive environment, you're talking about the opportunities and threats, whereas when you're talking about the internal environment, you focus on your strengths and weaknesses. So three things are important here. One is resource, second one is capability, and third one is the competencies of the company. The next component of a strategic thinking requires the generation of series of strategic alternatives, taking into consideration the SWOT of the company. Fine. So basically your focus should be on strategic thinking that requires what? Generation of series of strategic alternatives. So you not need to figure out what are the various strategic alternatives that are available for the company. How? By taking into consideration the SWOT of the company, that is strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Beautifully explained in this example, or rather in this diagram. Strategic analysis process, if you are able to basically explain these three points, that's more than sufficient. One is internal analysis of the company, and that would be reflected through resources, capabilities, and competencies of the company. Then you have to do the SWOT identification, and the third one is you need to figure out the strategic alternatives. Fine. Okay, then you come to the selection of strategies, right? So we'll just quickly recap so that you have a hold over this. First is you select the corporate mission and major corporate goals, wherein you have 4 points, that is mission, vision, key goals, and major goals. Then you analyze the organization external competitive environment, wherein you figure out the opportunities and threats. Then therein you have three external environments. One is industry environment, country or national environment, and the macro environment. Then you come to the internal part of it. So internal operating environment to identify what strengths and weaknesses. Herein you have to concentrate on internal analysis, SWOT identification, and the strategic alternatives. Then fourth point, we come to select strategies. While selecting strategies, managers should compare and contrast the various alternative strategies against each other. So alternatives that basically you have selected, managers, what will they do is that they will basically compare each other, or rather they compare and they'll figure out which one is the best one and select the one that will create and sustain a competitive advantage. So the one with the competitive advantage shall be selected by the competent managers, or rather the managers who are undertaking the activities of basically selecting the strategies. Strategies selected should be in line with the mission and major goals of the organization. Very, very important. So whatever strategies are you are selecting, that should be in tandem with what? With the mission and the major goals of the organization. So how do you basically represent in the form of figures? So three major important things that you need to remember when strategic decision is done. That can be done through a pyramid. First one is through competitive advantage. Second is through goal integration, as in every department or the company on a whole should integrate together to achieve the goals of the organization, and the mission should be aligned. So that is the mission alignment. So three things that you need to remember is competitive advantage, goal integration, and mission alignment when you talk about selection of strategies. Then you finally do what? You implement the strategies, right? So once you have selected, what you will do is you will implement. How do you implement? In order to achieve a competitive advantage and increase profitability, managers must put strategies selected into action. So whatever you have selected, you have to put that into action. How will you do it? Implementation involves taking actions at the functional, business, and corporate level. So three things: one is functional level, second one is business level, and third one is corporate level, right? Functional is basically the way you're operating, business is within the organization, and corporate at a larger level or the top level management for to execute a strategic plan. So these three things, if you remember, that's more than sufficient. So how do you describe this in a diagram? Basically you have a dart, and inside the outermost layer talks about the corporate level, then you have the second layer which is the business level, and then the third layer talks about the functional level. This is the green part, and this will eventually lead to what? Taking you helping you to take good strategic actions, right? So corporate level, business level, and function level, and that will eventually help you to implement the strategy or take necessary action to attain the strategic goals, right? So that's all about the steps in the strategic planning. Now this implementation can include the following steps. So what are the various steps that are implementation will include? First is putting quality improvement programs into place, right? So you should have a proper quality improvement program, as in whatever quality check is there, that has to be done, and if it has to be improved, necessary action should be taken. Changing the way a product is designed, so you need to keep up with the trends, right? So if, for example, if some product, for example, a refrigerator is made, so initially we used to have what, single door refrigerator, but then the way the refrigerators were there, the design were actually changed. So you have to have two compartments. Above, the top one used to have freezer, the bottom one used to be a normal fridge. So again, that's changing the way a product is designed. So you got to upkeep with the trends in the market. Positioning the product differently in a marketplace, right? It should not be a routine way of selling your products. For example, now you have a lot of social media, so you push your products not only through TV advertisements or newspapers, you basically try to do it with Instagram or Facebook, right? That's one more way of doing it. Market segmentation and offering different versions of product to different consumer goods. So you need to categorize what kind of customers you are basically catering to, and you basically try to segment the market accordingly. Implementing price increases or decreases. So whenever required, you do the price increase or decrease depending on the market situation. Expanding through M&A. M&A is what? Mergers and acquisitions. Fine. So if you feel there is an opportunity available in the market, so you can basically grab that opportunity by expanding your business. That can be done through mergers and acquisitions. Downsizing the company by closing down or selling off parts of the company. So in case the company isn't doing well or certain segments aren't doing well, basically you can downsize the company. Downsizing means reducing the size of the company. How? By closing down or selling off parts of the company, right? So implementation can include what all steps? One is quality improvement, second is product design, third is market positioning, then market segmentation, pricing strategy, M&A, that is mergers and acquisition expansion, and downsizing of the company. Right, now we come to the last part of the chapter. Last part talks about the feedback loop. Okay, what do you mean by loop? Loop is something wherein you keep on going inside again and again. You have a loop of things. Fine. Feedback loop indicates a strategic planning never ends. That's what it says. You would have seen a loop. Loop simply means something which goes again and again and again. So it is a never-ending process. So that's what feedback loop is also. It indicates that strategic planning never ends. So the more feedbacks you get, you got to learn out of it, and you keep on, and you should not stop the process of taking feedbacks. That should be an ongoing process. Determine extent to which strategic goals and objectives are actually being achieved, and to what degree competitive advantage is being created and sustained. Execution of the strategy must be monitored, and sustained execution of the strategy must be monitored. So it says determine extent to which strategic goals and objectives are actually being achieved. So whatever goals and objectives you have set for the company, you have to ensure they are being achieved, and to what extent competitive advantage is being created. What advantage are you creating? And that sustained execution of strategy, that you are basically the strategies that are being executed, you also have to make sure that they are being monitored. So three things. First of all, whether the goals and objectives are basically achieved or not when you talk about the feedback loop, to what degree the competitive advantage is being created, and thirdly, the sustained execution of the strategy must be monitored. So monitoring is the third part. This information is returned through feedback loops, and it becomes the input for next round of strategy formulation and implementation. So as I said, this is an ongoing process or a recurring process. So it's not that once you take a feedback, you're done and dusted with it. Every time you do something, you got to take the feedbacks time and again, so that it basically gives you a foundation for the next round of strategy formulation and implementation. Top managers can decide whether to continue with the existing business model and existing goals and strategies, or suggest changes for the future. So based on the feedback loops, basically the managers can decide whether they can continue with the existing business models or the existing goals, and if there has to be some changes, they can take the appropriate actions towards it, right? So let's understand this topic with a diagram. Basically, competitive advantage evaluation. right? That's what a feedback loop does, assessing the creation and sustainability of competitive advantage. So you basically assess the creation and sustainability. That means how long it can sustain or to what extent it can sustain. Secondly, you come to strategy execution monitoring. You ensure the strategy is implemented effectively. Then what you do feedback collection, right? In that, what you do, gathering insights for future planning, and finally you do strategy formulation, that is developing new or adjusted strategies, right? So with this we finish 9.5. In the next video we'll be finishing 9.6, and with that we'll be finishing the module 9 on a whole, right? If you like this video, please make sure you press the like button and do consider subscribing this channel. Thank you for joining and keep learning.